In the desolate and unforgiving expanse of Mongolia, the harshness of the land forges people of steel. What secrets does this ancient terrain hold? This is the tale of those who emerged from the enigmatic steppes to create the largest empire the world has ever seen. Beside that, have you ever wondered what truly transpired in the shadowy depths of the Battle of Yehuling? The story begins with a shattering revelation. An entire empire on the brink of annihilation. A battlefield strewn with unimaginable carnage. And a strategy so cunning it defied the era's greatest military minds. Could such devastation have been the work of mere mortals? Or was there something more sinister at play? Prepare to unravel the chilling mysteries of Yehuling and witness the story of Temujin and his transformation into the legendary Genghis Khan like never before. Why do the chronicles of the Eastern Asian steppe remain covered in such profound mystery? The early history of the Mongols is a subject of intense debate, shrouded in the fog of time. In the 10th century, the Proto-Mongolic Khitan people rose to prominence, forming an empire known as the Great Liao. They were formidable warriors who clashed with Korea, China, and Central Asia. By 1125, their empire fell to the Chinese Jin dynasty, compelling them to establish a new Khitan state called Western Liao. In what is now Mongolia, various nomadic tribes came together to form a coalition known as Khamag Mongol, meaning whole Mongol. Among these tribes was the Borjigin clan, whose leaders were frequently chosen as khans of this confederation during the 12th century. Khamag Mongol was locked in a relentless fight with the Tartar Confederacy, both fighting for dominance in the harsh, unforgiving steppes. This brutal struggle almost wept out the Mongol Confederacy by the late 12th century. Amidst this chaos, Yesugei, the determined chief of the Borjigin clan, embarked on a perilous mission to reunite the fractured tribes. In 1171, Yesugei arranged a marriage between his young son, the 9-year-old Temujin, and Borte, the daughter of a neighboring clan's chief. But was this union truly a step towards unity, or an omen of darker events? Some whispers from the past suggest Yesugei was poisoned by the Tartars during the wedding. With his father gone, Temujin sought to assume leadership, but faced harsh rejection and exile. Stripped of power, he and his family plunged into years of extreme poverty, and he even endured the chains of slavery. How did Temujin transform from a destitute outcast to a formidable leader? The turning point came through alliances. He found support in his blood brother Jamuka and Togrul Khan, the leader of the Karite tribe. Together, Temujin and Jamuka launched daring raids on rival tribes. Yet, the alliance was fragile. Whereas Temujin elevated competent individuals from outside his tribe to positions of authority, Jamuka supported the status quo of the Mongolian nobility. Threatened by Temujin's rising influence, Jamuka struck in 1187 with a formidable force of 30,000 warriors. Temujin, commanding 20,000, faced a crushing defeat at the Battle of Dalan Balzut. What followed? History shrouds Temujin's next decade in mystery. By 1197, Temujin emerged once more, leading a unified Mongol and Karite force against the Tatars in a war orchestrated by the Jin dynasty. What trials did he face during those hidden years? How did he rise from the ashes of defeat to forge an alliance that would set the steppes ablaze? In a path for vengeance, Temujin set out to avenge his father's death. What dark fate awaited the leaders of the Tartar tribes? It's none other than execution. Meanwhile, the non-aristocrats were given a tantalizing choice. Join Temujin's ranks and share in the spoils of war. Imagine a world where loyalty and skill overshadow tribal ties and bloodlines. This was the new order Temujin envisioned. But what were these new rules that Temujin was creating? They laid the foundations for a revolutionary code of law that would govern his vast empire. One deeply personal law declared that hospitality was sacred, and guests and envoys were inviolable, a reflection of the profound impact his father's death had on him. How did Temujin manage to reform the Mongols and draw more warriors to his side with each victory? Through his visionary leadership and innovative strategies. He implemented the decimal system, meticulously organizing his army into units of tens, hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands. But there was a grim law. If one man deserted, the other 9 in his unit faced execution. Who commanded this formidable force? Most commanders were chosen by their men, fostering loyalty and trust. But the commanders of the 10,000s, known as tumens, were personally selected by Temujin himself. As each victory swelled his ranks, Temujin didn't just lead an army. He transformed the steppe world and laid the groundwork for an empire that would echo through the ages. In 1201, a shadowy council convened in the vast Mongolian steppes, including several Mongolian clans, who were in opposition to the rising power of Temujin. Among the flickering campfires and hushed whispers, a decision was made that would ignite a 5-year storm of war. Jamuka, a prominent military leader and Temujin's former close friend, was declared Khan. This bold move set the stage for a fierce conflict between Jamuka and Temujin, once inseparable blood brothers turned bitter rivals. Temujin, with his relentless ambition and tactical brilliance, triumphed over Jamuka at the Battle of the 13 Sides. That same pivotal year, Temujin called another council of Mongol chiefs. They elected him as their supreme leader, bestowing upon him the title of Genghis Khan, ruler of all. For the first time, the fractious tribes united under a single banner and authority, forging a powerful nomadic nation. In 1209, the enigmatic Mongol troops, led by the relentless Genghis Khan, launched their first audacious invasion against the formidable Liao dynasty to the southwest. The chronicles of this conflict remain shrouded in mystery, but it is whispered that while Genghis Khan triumphed in the open fields, he faced formidable challenges when besieging the great fortified Liao cities. Through this campaign, the Mongols learned the dark arts of siege warfare. As the encircled cities weakened under the grip of starvation and disease, the once mighty Liao emperor, broken and desperate, bent the knee to Genghis Khan. Until now, the Jin dynasty ignored the Liao people's plea for assistance, underestimating the Mongols as a nuisance to their northern frontier. As far as we know, the Jin dynasty in northern China stood as a formidable barrier to the Mongol Empire's dream of world domination. Once, they cleverly used divide-and-rule tactics to keep the Mongol tribes in check. But what happens when the old tricks no longer work? Realizing the futility of their past strategies, the Jin dynasty geared up for a full-scale war, aiming to crush the Mongol threat in one decisive campaign. That was the reason the Jin dynasty had constructed a line of structural defenses about 300 kilometers long along its northern border. This line is sometimes loosely referred to as the Jin dynasty's Great Wall. In 1210, Genghis Khan openly taunted Emperor Xingsheng of the Jin, branding him a coward and unworthy ruler. He boldly declared, "The emperor should be a man from the sky like me." Furious upon hearing this, the Jin emperor executed the Mongol ambassador, igniting a fierce escalation in tensions between the Mongols and the Jin dynasty. In 1211, Genghis Khan summoned all Mongol chieftains, preparing for a massive campaign against China. In the shadowy days of March 1211, the Mongol horde, numbering a formidable 100,000, embarked on an incredible campaign against the mighty Jin dynasty. With only 2,000 warriors left to defend their distant homeland. That means over 90% of the Mongol forces were now on the march. A daring gamble that would either lead to unparalleled conquest or unimaginable ruin. The Jin dynasty, with its enormous population, mobilized an impressive force of 800,000 infantry, mostly untrained peasants with low morale, and 150,000 highly trained heavy cavalry. Yet, this vast army was spread thin, garrisoned across the Great Wall and various fortresses. Meanwhile, the Mongols fielded a formidable 90,000-strong cavalry force, divided into 3 parts. Light cavalry scouts, horse archers armed with composite bows, and heavy cavalry wielding lances and curved swords. What would happen when these two forces clashed? Would sheer numbers prevail, or would the Mongols' training and loyalty tip the scales? After bypassing the ineffective Great Wall, the Mongols split into 2 armies. The main force, led by Genghis Khan himself, was 60,000 strong, while his son Ogedei took 30,000 men to attack the city of Datong and block enemy reinforcements. The Jin chancellor urgently dispatched troops to bolster the defenses along the Jin dynasty's Great Wall, aiming to halt the relentless Mongol advance further south. Genghis Khan, the enigmatic leader of the Mongol horde, set his sights on the strategic Juyong Pass, the gateway protecting the ancient city of Beijing. However, his advance was abruptly halted at the formidable Yehuling Pass, where the bulk of the Jin dynasty's army lay in wait, poised for a decisive confrontation. The Mongols and the Jin forces faced each other in a tense standoff that stretched into months. Would the Mongols, known for their relentless assaults, simply wait in the face of such a formidable obstacle? As the Jin army held their ground, Genghis Khan devised a cunning plan. He sent his most trusted generals, Jebe and Subutai, on a secretive and perilous mission. Leading a small but elite force, they embarked on a daring maneuver to flank the Jin from the rear. Their target, the Wusha fortress on the western front. In the dead of night, the Mongol detachment stealthily approached the fortress, catching the Jin defenders completely off guard. The ensuing battle was swift and brutal. The Mongol warriors, driven by their fierce loyalty and unparalleled combat skills, defeated the Jin forces, capture Wuyue camp. The fortress fell, and the Jin army, along with their commander, were utterly annihilated. Once the secondary army quickly grouped up with the main force, which was still waiting in Yehuling. Now, the rugged mountainous terrain posed a formidable challenge for the swift Mongolian cavalry. But what hidden dangers did it hold for the massive Jin forces? This treacherous landscape was equally unforgiving for the Jin, who found their vast armies dispersed among the mountain slopes and valley choke points. The harsh environment and expansive distances hindered their communication and troop coordination, creating a ticking time bomb. This strategic vulnerability became their downfall when the Mongols launched a precise and concentrated assault, turning the Jin's numerical advantage into a fatal weakness. The Jin imperial court, in a desperate endeavor to put down the looming Mongol threat, dispatched Shimo Mingan to negotiate peace with the formidable Genghis Khan. But their encounter led to a dramatic turn of events. Genghis Khan, with his charisma and cunning, managed to sway Shimo Mingan to surrender and defect to his side. Not only did Shimo Mingan switch allegiances, but he also became a valuable asset, providing the Mongols with critical military intelligence about the Jin army. This betrayal marked a pivotal moment in the Mongol conquest, as the once loyal Jin official now aided their greatest enemy. With Shimo Mingan's aid, Genghis sent men to launch a surprise cavalry charge over the peaks surrounding the pass, which the Jin generals thought was impossible, and attacked the much larger army from both sides. A trap meticulously set by the cunning Khan. Amidst the chaos, Yebi, one of Genghis Khan's most brilliant generals, executed the famed Mongol tactic of a feigned retreat. The Mongols engaged in a brief skirmish, then fled, leaving behind tantalizing loot. Would the Jin forces resist the bait? They did not. Abandoning their stronghold, they chased the fleeing Mongols, oblivious to the danger that lurked ahead. Little do they know, they were falling into a deadly trap where thousands of them were attacked from all sides by Mongol archers. Eventually, the Jin army descended into chaos, its ranks disorganized and its morale shattered. Amidst the turmoil, the Jin field commander, Wanyan Jujin, met his fate on the battlefield, struck down in the heat of combat. With the heart of the Jin forces collapsing, nearby contingents swiftly followed suit, fleeing in disarray. A brutal massacre ensued, and the once formidable Jin army was utterly annihilated, leaving a grim trail of dead bodies stretching over 100 miles. With the gates of China now open wide, Genghis Khan and his warriors ravaged the countryside, a prelude to further devastation. As winter approached, the Mongols withdrew, but the respite was short-lived. The following year they returned, this time laying siege to Datong. What price did Genghis pay for his relentless ambition? During the siege, he was wounded by an arrow. The city, fortified and defiant, resisted the Mongols, who once again retreated as winter was coming. In 1213, the Mongols launched another audacious invasion, their incredible mobility making it impossible for the Jin to mount a successful resistance. The Mongol raiders swept through the countryside, leaving devastation in their wake. Imagine the dread as fortresses and cities fell under siege, and waited for the enemy to attempt to break the siege, only to be ambushed and defeated. The Mongols were fighting guerrilla warfare within a foreign land. The fate of the cities that surrendered was grim. Most inhabitants faced slaughter or enslavement, a brutal reminder of the Mongols' ruthless consequence. But intriguingly, engineers, artisans, merchants, doctors, teachers, priests, and administrators were spared. Why did the Mongols choose to save these particular individuals? Even more chilling were the others taken as human shields. Forced to march in the vanguard, these unfortunate souls blocked arrows and discouraged enemy archers from firing. Following his conquest of all Jin territory north of the Yellow River, Genghis advanced and attacked Beijing, the capital city. The Mongols attempted to starve the city, but after a few months an epidemic attacked their camp, and in this desperate situation, negotiations were inevitable. They had to negotiate with the Jin emperor, Xuanzong. He agreed to peace in exchange for a tribute of loot, men, horses, and his daughter, along with subjugation to the Mongol Khan. Thus, the Mongols left China and returned to Mongolia area with their treasure. But just as they approached the Great Wall, a lone messenger galloped to Genghis Khan with urgent news. The emperor had moved his court south to Kaifeng. This enraged the Great Khan, signaling that the Jin planned to retaliate. What did this mean for the future of the Mongol conquests? Without hesitation, the Mongols turned back to Beijing, besieging the city with the aid of thousands of Chinese engineers. The city was soon surrounded, breached, and utterly razed. For weeks, thousands of carts hauled loot back to Mongolia. Fires consumed the city for over a month, while its people faced a merciless massacre. What had started as a mere nuisance had now brought a 20 million-strong nation to its knees. The Mongol devastation, unstoppable and relentless, was now heading west. What fate awaited the next civilizations in their path?